There it is. All right, guys. Happy Thursday. So I am so grateful and so excited to have my friend Kimberly on here tonight. She has been helping me and guiding me financially and all things tax and write-off for the past year. And I don't even know what I would do without her. I'm like such a hot mess financially. And she has just been there like every time I have a question, if I need something broken down into like the dumbest of terms, which is mostly all the time, like she is just so sweet and so helpful and has been an absolute godsend. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to her. And then you guys definitely have a pen and a notebook and take notes, write down any questions that pop into your head at the end. We're going to open up the chat. You know, if you have questions, drop them at the end, because if you drop them now, you're probably going to find that they're going to get answered, you know, so save them and we'll ask questions at the end in the chat. But Kimberly, go right ahead, babe.
Hello, everybody. Okay, I just opened the chat. I'm not used to Zooming, so so I'll keep that open so I can see questions. And I want to keep this short tonight because I realize we're in different time zones and it's already 7 o'clock where I am. So I don't know if anyone's on the East Coast. I know I've got people in Central Standard and it's a weeknight. So I just want to really just kind of go over a few basic things and then open it up to let you guys ask questions and that I can answer, and maybe just keep it to like 30 minutes or, but I had kind of an idea earlier that we could do a, you know, monthly Ask the Accountant if you want to, question and answer session. So if Lacey, if you want to do that, I totally am willing to do that.
You're awesome. That would be awesome.
Well, you know, there's a lot, and it's like, when you go to talk about business basics, it's like there's so many different areas. You can't possibly cover everything, you know, so it's like I want to just focus on a couple of areas tonight and maybe give you a little background about me. So I am an accountant. I'm a tax strategist, and I specialize in helping people in network marketing because I understand the industry. I understand, you know, what you can and can't write off. There's not a lot of accountants that have that understanding. And I love helping people in network marketing. So I, first of all, want to congratulate you on having a business, because you are opening up a new tax code basically for yourselves. As a W-2 employee, you don't have the opportunity to write things off. As a business owner, you do. So a lot of the things that, you know, would have been personal expenses before now become business expenses. You can take what you already spend money on and you can redirect it to, you know, as a business deduction, bring your income down, pay less in taxes, enjoy, you know, the same lifestyle that you did, but you have more money in your pocket. So congratulations. I'm sure, you know, some of you are new, some of you have been in business longer, but it's exciting because just by getting into business for yourself, I mean, you save on average of $4,000 to $8,000 a year in taxes. So that being said, what I find, like when people get into this type of a business, sometimes they start making crazy money, and it's like usually at this time of the year or, you know, tax time, they come in a panic because they're not sure what to do. So I really want to focus on a couple of areas, which is just, you know, what do you do in the beginning when you start your business? How do you get like systems in place, or infrastructure, if you will, to set yourselves up for success? So the first thing that I want to talk about is setting up an LLC, and why that is a good idea from the very beginning, because it gives you options. And it, you know, every state is different. So one state that California, if you live in California, there is an $800 fee every single year when you file your tax return if you are an LLC. So that's one state that, you know, you really have to be making good money to put an LLC in place, because it costs you. So, you know, most of the time I would say start with an LLC, because what happens if you, when you start a business, you go, you know, to the Secretary of State and you do a business license, doing business as, or you set up an LLC. But what happens if you just do a DBA, which most people do because they don't know? to set up an LLC is they come to file their taxes, and all of their income is subject to Social Security and Medicare tax and income tax, because it's structured as a doing business as. So if you are an LLC, you have a choice. So say you come to the end of the year and you've made a bunch of money. Well, now you have a choice to say, I'm not going to be treated that way. I'm going to elect to be treated a different way so that I can save money on taxes. So I feel like it's good to have that in place so that you can, when you're ready to make that decision, it's already there and you don't lose out on being able to take advantage of it for the tax year, that you're dealing with. So that being said, you have to look at each state is different. I'm in Idaho. So Idaho is $100 filing fee. It's one time only. I never have to pay again. But all states are different, right? So you always want to consider that, what is the cost? And then you have to set up however you set your business up, you want to usually issue an EIN number because you'll want to go open a business account. And that's something that, a lot of people are mixing personal and business. So it's very, very important that you keep your business expenses, business income separate. You have a separate bank account. So if you don't have one already, set one up right away because it's an accounting nightmare. And if you are an LLC and you're mixing, personal and business expenses, one of the purposes of having an LLC is protecting your assets. So it gives you a liability protection. When you are mixing everything together, you don't have that protection. So I don't see too many people get sued in this industry, but there are other industries where that is, more of an issue. I think having the LLC in place is more just for tax purposes than liability purposes. But anyways, so issuing an EIN number, and that comes from the IRS. So if anyone doesn't know how to do that, I can certainly give you a link. When you use Google, and I just had this conversation with someone yesterday that's on this Zoom, you can say apply for an EIN and you'll have 50 companies that come up with ads because they want to charge you. It is free to issue an EIN number. And there is only one place to do it, and it's an IRS link that I can certainly send out if anybody needs that. And it's very simple, and that's what you would take into the bank. You would go to the Secretary of State, either do your DBA or your LLC, issue your EIN number, go into the bank, open a separate business account. They won't open a separate business account if you don't have those two things. So that's the first three things that you want to do when you start your business, and then get set up on some kind of accounting software because it just simplifies life. You can try to keep receipts and, get everything tallied at the end of the year, but I can promise you're going to miss deductions if you treat your business that way. So I use QuickBooks. I love QuickBooks Online because I don't know if you guys are familiar with QuickBooks, but there's two different platforms. There's desktop, which is just on your computer, and it's like a CD, and you download it, and everything that you put in is like manual transactions. Well, QuickBooks came out with a new accounting software that is online. So you actually connect your bank account, and it feeds all the transactions in. And then all you have to do is classify them, and it literally will build financial reports for you. So you can see your profit and loss, which is your income statement. So that is, what is your business making? What is your gross? What are all your deductions? What is the bottom line? What are you gonna get taxed on? So I like that because I can use that and tax plan with people, monthly, quarterly, it just depends on what your needs are. But you have to make decisions through the year, because if you get to the end of the year and you say, okay, I owe $12,000 in taxes, do you want to send that check to the IRS, or do you want to go and invest in your business? Because that's what I want for you guys. But you're not going to know what decisions to make if you're not keeping up on, where's your business at through the year. So those are like the 4 top things, to do when you start your business. And then the other area that I wanted to talk about is budgeting, the B word. And I am a total nerd. I love numbers. I just crunch numbers all day long. So for me, it's actually fun I feel very in control, when I know what's happening with my money. And it's really easy. Like, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and then all of a sudden you start making 6 figures a year, it's like you're going to spend all of the money regardless of how much you make. You can make 6 figures, you can make $1 million. You're going to spend it all if you're not telling your money where to go. So that is like just a hot issue for me, that it's almost like the law of attraction with money. It's like a universal law of money, that if you're not telling your money where to go, it will disappear. And if you are telling it where to go, it's amazing. I've seen it work over and over again. It's like more money appears. So that's something that, I would encourage everybody to do a budget. I started mine on Excel. I go in and I like Excel because, it'll calculate everything for you. And it's easy to use, but I also started using this app called Every Dollar, like just this last month. And it's really cool because you can like do your budget. You can say what I plan to spend, and then every time you spend money, you put it in and it shows you what's remaining. But it shows you, are you over in this area? Do you have more money? And you can like reallocate money. So it's really cool. So I've been using that. And that's just, I guess, the couple of areas that I wanted to focus on, and just open it up to like, what questions do you guys have? I'm going to look at the chat because
so I saw
there's a lot in here. Let's see, let's go back up.
Yeah, one person asked, how much money should you be making before you need to go on that IRS website and get the EIN? And then just so you guys know, Chastity dropped that link in the chat, so it's in there.
Awesome. So if you don't have employees, so here's the thing. If you go down to the bank and you say, I want to open a business account, they are going to require an EIN number. But the IRS, you could file your taxes under your social security number. They're not going to require that you have an EIN number unless you have employees. So that's where it changes. Or, if you're paying yourself as an employee or you have other people that are on your payroll, that's when the IRS requires it. But the bank is going to require it for you to walk in the door and say, I want to open a bank account with my business name on it, because your business name is not going to be, associated with your social security number. Your personal name is. So you're going to have a tough time having, walking in and saying, open this in LLC with no EIN number. So immediately, I guess, is that the question you asked? Like, when do you need to do it?
Yeah.
Lacey?
Yeah, that's a good answer. So basically, because and you already said, like, you should open that business account immediately, like right now, today, tomorrow, yesterday. So you need the EIN number to do that. So yeah, that answers.
Yeah.
One thing I know that people wanted to hear about too is write-offs. Like when I started, and I don't know if Sandra Sheldon is on here, bless her heart, but my first year in network marketing, I remember like right at tax time, I had this girlfriend on this team, and she was so sweet. And she was like, well, you can write this off and this off and this off. And I was sitting on my couch and I had this pile of receipts, and I was like looking through all my bills and all this, and I was trying to figure it all out. And I was surprised at, that I could write off like my phone that I had bought and like different stuff like that. So maybe we should touch on a few things that maybe people don't know they can write off in this business, in this company. Because I know a lot of people want to hear about that.
I can send you also, I wonder if I can post it. I don't know if I can post it in here as a file. Let me see, because I have a little like cheat sheet. How do you grab a document? Can you do that? Right there.
I'm not sure. I know you can drop a link in there. I'm not sure about it.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do a document. Anyways, I can email that to you, and you can give it to people maybe that want it. But basically, I mean, in network marketing, there's a lot more that you can write off, because you have to look at the industry that you're in, and anything that you are using like on a daily basis. Okay, if you're using your phone, you can write off your phone. If you're going out to meals that would otherwise be personal and you're talking about business, before, during, after a meal, you can have that meal and you can write that off. Usually it's 50%. In 2021, they allowed 100% to get people back into restaurants. So 100% write off. Travel is a big one. If you're traveling and you take your children with you, on a vacation and you do business while you're there, that can be a write-off. You can write off taking your family with you, not just you. There's, and I could go like way further, like I want to keep it pretty simple because I don't want to overwhelm people, but like pretty much what's to network marketing, a lot of like advertising, marketing, if you're doing like promos for your teams, gifts for your teams, anything like that, can be write off. Product samples. I do have like a sheet that I can show you or send to you that's going to give you like line by line. You can take a home office deduction. If you're a certain entity type, there's a workaround for a home office deduction. You can hire your children and pay your children tax-free if they're under 18, up to the standard deduction each year. There's a lot of write-offs. So it's not, and probably the easiest thing is like, just show, give you a visual of all of the things. And then your vehicle too is a big one. So you can take mileage on a vehicle, or you can take actual expenses and depreciation. So I know Lavelle does an auto bonus. If you go out and you purchase a new vehicle, which is a lot of times, a strategy that we use at the end of the year, it's like, if you're going to pay taxes, do you need a new vehicle? Let's go out and buy a new vehicle. Because the thing about vehicles, if you get a car that's under 6,000 pounds, you're going to be limited on what you can write off. It's around 18,000 this year. But if you get an SUV or something that's it's based on gross vehicle weight. So if you get something that's over 6,000 pounds, then you can take 100% deduction on that. So think about, if you had $50,000 in income you were going to pay taxes on, and you go out and you get a $50,000 car, we wipe all of that out. So those are probably the main ones. But I think, it's like, as you go, if you have a question, is this a write-off or is this not, you can shoot a message and ask, and I can certainly let you know. But I'll give you like a deduction sheet that will kind of, let me pull it up too.
Yeah, I can drop that in our team page where I dropped the Zoom, if you want to send it to me, or if you can get it in the chat.
See if I missed any.
Yeah, there's some more in there. I'll let you check them.
Give me 1 second. Just want to make sure I didn't miss like anything.
So Anna, Danny is recording this. She said, where do I find the replay? Danny's recording it. I can drop the replay in the Dream Team, but anything that Danny ever records is going to go on her YouTube page. So if you guys aren't subscribed to Danny Get on YouTube, that's like my cheat spot. I just go grab every recording off of there.
Yeah, I don't see like really much of anything that like major things that I missed when we were just talking about that. So business use of home, automobile, postage, I didn't mention that one. If you purchase clothing is kind of a gray area. Like if you purchase it for business and you only wear it for business, then you can take it as a deduction. But if it's something that can be worn, for personal and business, then the IRS doesn't like you writing that off. Obviously, any tax prep fees, any bookkeeping software, pretty much. I mean, you're very unlimited. There's very few things that you can't find a way to write off in your business. So I would say that's the smaller list. Vet bills, can't write those off. our pet babies,
right?
We're making money.
So this is a really good question. Raquel said, so that we have like credits in our system, right? We get our product credits every month. If we're spending credits or if we're converting our paychecks into credits, how does that come into play, like with our income? And is our credit purchases a write-off?
Absolutely, because you're converting what would be, so your 1099 that you get at the end of the year from Lavelle is all of the money that you made. So if you're getting taxed on that. So if you're converting that into credits and you're using that money, then absolutely you can write that off. 100% deduction.
Cool.
So, and then I guess what kind of comes to mind when we're talking about that is tracking of it. So that's something at the end of the year, you know, if you have QuickBooks and your bank is connected to it, it's not going to feed that in. That's like a piece that you're going to have to pull, a report you're going to have to run, and you're going to have to add that up and say, okay, here's how much of my income I converted to credits and, you know, gave to other promoters or customers. And, you know, it needs to be tracked. So what should happen is each person that you're giving either cash or non-cash things to, you set up a line item that's a 1099 for them. And if it goes over $600 in a year, then you're supposed to give them a 1099. So that would be income to them. Anything that's under $600, you don't have to report that, but you still track it for deduction purposes on your side. If that makes sense.
So that would be like when we, you know, we do cashbacks on upgrade packs and like cashbacks on orders and stuff like that. If somebody gets to that $600, like one person, you've cash back $600 or more within the tax year, they should be getting that tax form.
Exactly. You're required to issue a 1099 to them. And if you don't, there can be a penalty, you know, for your company. So you want to be tracking that anytime that you're giving money.
Okay.
Cash or non-cash. And that's kind of a, you know, something that sometimes can be a hard conversation, but I think a lot of people understand, especially when you're giving them cash, that could be potentially be income to me. So it just needs to be tracked throughout the year and then, you know, see where you're at the end of the year and what tax forms need to be filed. So let me
you guys just send them this Zoom and then you don't have to have the hard conversation. Just
right.
Really just told them. So there was a question. Brandy asked if she already has an EIN for another business, does she need a new one for this business?
Mm-hmm. So let me backtrack for 1 second and say something before we move on to that question. When you pay out cash or credits or anything else, there's a form called a W-9 that you should be giving to every person that is receiving money, cash or non-cash from you. And that way you have that on file and it tells you they're signing that. They're basically acknowledging this could be income to me. And then you know too what their entity type is, because your business is not required to send out 1099s if somebody's a corporation. So if they're a sole proprietor, you know, they're an LLC that's not being treated as an S corporation, or they're not, you know, a corporation, then you can just file that form and you don't have to send one out. So that W-9 is really, and I'll send you that. I'll email you that as well, Lacey, so people have that and they can, you know, give that out to anybody that they're doing credits with, they're doing cashbacks to, and then, you know, that goes along with tracking what you're sending out. So your other question, okay, so if you already have an EIN, it depends on if it's the same type of business. So for tax purposes, you could potentially, and it depends on your entity type. So if you're filing what's called a Schedule C, which is what most people are used to, like on your tax return, your 1040 tax return, you'll have a Schedule C if you're like a sole proprietor. Then you could potentially file a couple of businesses under one EIN number, but it needs to be like the same type of businesses. If you are, and entity types. So if you're an S Corp over here and you're a sole proprietor over here, then you can't mix them. So it's kind of like a case-by-case basis, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
So I see a question in here that says, what if you've mixed your money all year and don't have an LLC as of now? And that's the case, like, you know, and really why I wanted to do this, because I see that a lot. And it's the end of the year and it's like, there isn't anything you can do for this year, but you can set yourself up for next year correctly. So what I would say to that, if you've mixed your money all year long, you're going to have to separate it out. And it's a lot more work to do that, but then set yourself up for January 1. you do not do that. You open that separate business account, you connect it, to QuickBooks, or if there's something else that you want to use, and you're tracking that, and then you open an LLC immediately. And I mean, it's already December 16th, so it's like there's only 2 weeks left of this year, but I would do it now. Because if you don't have an LLC, then you're going to be filing as a Schedule C filer, which is the highest tax rate that you can pay. So hopefully that answers that question. Let's see. This person says, I love QuickBooks and know both versions. How much money should you make in order to file for an EIN? I think we answered that one, right? It's not about how much money you make. It's about, okay. I like a good budget app. Me too. I'm telling you, this every dollar one is so cool, because I'm like, if I overspent over here, so here's the deal. I can say I want to put X number of dollars in my savings account. And if I overspent over here, I don't take it from my savings. I take it from another category that would be money that I would spend. So that money goes into my savings regardless, right? Because that's one thing. I mean, you should always have an emergency fund, minimum of $1,000, like a baby emergency fund, because we all know emergencies come up, and if you have to cover something, a cost of something, then you want to have at least that amount, and not be, I'm going to go put it on a credit card, or panicking. So I start with that $1,000 and then work up from there. But that's something I would put in place as well. How do you make your husband use it? Are you talking about the budget app?
Yes, I was kidding, but
Chastity asked, how do you make your husband? Oh, the budget app? Okay, so let's see. I have an EIN number already.
You start withholding things that he wants.
Right? Same way with children, where you say, when you do this, you can have this.
Right? Just kidding.
Positive reinforcement. Yeah. Should you create or apply for the LLC before applying for the EIN? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you need to have the LLC, because when you're issuing an EIN number, it's going to ask you what entity type you are. I mean, you could do them simultaneously, but I definitely would apply for the LLC before applying for the EIN number. Can we talk about credits as write-offs? We did that. At what income should you consider doing the LLC? So at what income should you consider doing the LLC? I would put an LLC in place from day one if it's cost effective for you. So it depends on the state you live in. Like Montana, it's inexpensive, but you pay a fee every year. I think it's like $60, and then you pay like $30 or $40, each year. So it's like, if it's not going to cost you a lot, you put it in place, because then it's there when you need it. Because if you start off, the beginning of the year and you're making $600, but then all of a sudden, your business booms and you're like, oh my gosh, what happens is, if you get to the end of the year and like you've made all of this money and you have an LLC in place, you can backdate to the first of the year and choose how you want to be taxed. So that's why it's really important to have it in place, from day one, if it makes sense cost-wise. So I know, I mean, I don't work with all 50 states, but I know some, like California, they get you every year with an $800 tax when you have an LLC. So that's the state, where I would say, I don't know if that makes sense from day one, because that's, if you're not making money, now you're on the line to, pay $800 a year in tax. You may not want to do that. So again, it's kind of a case-by-case basis. So you would go to whatever state you're in, Secretary of State, and then look at the fee, the filing fee for an LLC, look at the annual requirements, and then decide. But I think in most cases, it's not very expensive, and it makes sense to do it from day one. So let's see what else. I think I answered that. Do you need more than one EIN if you already have one, right? And yes, I'll send the cheat sheet. And Oh, okay. We did that one. This is good information. What's the best way to get that to you, Lacey? Like email, or it says, can you drop the cheat sheet in the dream team? That would be just getting it to you and you'll do that, right?
Anyway, you can text it, email it, in Messenger, however you want. I can get it over there, however.
Perfect. Are free credits income and therefore taxed? I don't think that that's one that we addressed. So anything that I don't think that the free credits are taxed. When you look in your cloud office and it shows you like your earnings, I don't think that the credits are included in there. But that's a question I think that we'd have to ask Lavelle and how they treat that, because sometimes it depends on the company. Like I know that vacations used to be non-taxable and they separated out. So if you look in there, you'll see taxable and non-taxable. So there are some things that they don't tax, and I think credits are one of them. So that's something I would check with Lavelle on. Let's see. So if you were spending more than you earn, what would someone do? So the person that asked that question, can I get clarification on that? Shalina? Is she still on?
I think so. You'll have to unmute, baby, if you're here.
I'm trying to figure it out. Sorry, guys.
Yes, you
So
got
I
it.
just wanted, so like, if you start to put out more than you actually are earning, like, are you able to claim even like, say if you're gifting samples and you know what I mean? Like, I know we're not supposed to do that,
Okay, so
but
okay. Yes. So you're saying if you have a loss on your business, is it something that if you're spending more than you earn, it creates a loss for tax purposes, and you can write off that loss. So if you don't have any other income to write off on your tax return, it's a net operating loss that sits there and it gets carried forward until you do have income to deduct it against. If you do have other income, which this is another tax strategy, because my husband is a W-2 employee and I'm self-employed. So, you know, his income, the way that you can take, if I have a loss in my business, which in my business, that's difficult to do because I'm a service business. But there are, you know, other businesses, like if you're doing samples or you're, you know, giving things out and you can create a loss and you have, let's say you have a job as well as doing this, you can take that loss and you can offset it against the other type of income. So it can actually reduce your W-2 earnings if you have a side gig. And that's another tax strategy. So, and something that we've done this year because my husband, you know, he likes heavy equipment, things that are very costly. But we recognized, you know, we need to start a side business, and you're making this money over here, and you know, I have self-employment income over here. What can we do to reduce our tax liability? So he started another business, and then we bought a bunch of equipment and produce, you know, you can produce a loss with that. So I mean, think about if you need to buy a tractor, or you know, there's things that you already need to buy. That's another thing we didn't talk about as deductions. So other assets like equipment, or you know, something else that you might already be buying for personal use, you know, how can we take that and how can we write that off on our business? How can we make that I'm using this for business, even though it's something that you can also use personally? So I don't know if that answers that question. Did that answer your question, Shalina?
yeah, you covered it. Thank you.
Okay, and then what about Venmo, Cash App, PayPal to pay, cashbacks? That is, I'm glad somebody asked that, because when you use those types of apps or PayPal, it doesn't, like if you connect your account with QuickBooks, you can accumulate money. You know, you could have money like you're paying out, it's coming in through PayPal, and it all kind of gets jumbled together. So you do have to separate, like at the end of the year, you run a report. For example, like PayPal. Okay, so if you have money coming in and you have money going out and you like leave it sitting there and you don't cash it out, The only thing QuickBooks sees is when you cash the money out or you pay something out. So it doesn't always have it like listed individually. So you have to go through and run a report with those. And then you have to sometimes do journal entries into QuickBooks so that you're not losing out on those deductions. So that's a good question. Can we just print off credits page and highlight credits given? Pay, we didn't cash out and put back in and it's all there already? Yes. And that you would treat that, I think your credits the same way you would treat PayPal or, Cash App, where you would print a report out and then you go through and you would add everything up. And then again, it would be a journal entry that goes into QuickBooks. So you're not missing out on deductions. If you have 2 direct businesses, should you have an LLC? Tammy asked that question. Are you talking about 2 direct sales businesses? I don't know if she's still on. So somebody asked a question. I'm not quite sure what she's asking on that one.
That's kind of how I took it. I'm not sure if she's on either. Tammy, if you're on, you might have to unmute. Oh, there she is. She's in the chat. She said yes, 2 direct sales.
So those are the same types of businesses. So you could potentially write those off if you're a Schedule C filer on the same, like together. But if you're going to say, I'm going to elect to, have one treated as an S corporation and the other one is a different entity type, then no. So it's same entity type, same type of business, then yes, you can combine them. Does that answer your question? I don't hear anything. So I'll move on to the next one. It says, where's the best place to set up an LLC? The Secretary of State for whatever state you live in is where an LLC gets set up. And it is something that, I mean, you can hire companies to do it for you, or it's something you can do yourself. But it's at the Secretary of State and to get it set up. Would you provide, oh, I lost the chat. There you go. Accounting services to a resident in Oregon. I live in Oregon and have made about, oh, she's telling me how much she made. Okay. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I can talk with anybody that needs needs help with getting accounting services set up and taxes done. Lacey can give you my number, and I, if I can't do something myself, I have a girlfriend that owns a bookkeeping company that I can certainly refer business out to. It just depends on, what the need is. I definitely can take on like one-time tax returns, but doing, like monthly bookkeeping for people, I get to a place where I want to take the best care of the people I have, and there's only one of me. So sometimes I do refer out bookkeeping, accounting, and then I just do like review of the work and tax strategy. I also, if you're setting up payroll, which is, something that we do when people start making a lot of money, we start setting them up as employees. We elect to get treated as an S corporation. I have QuickBooks full service payroll that actually takes care of like all the tax reporting and all the tax deposits and the direct deposit. I just set up payrolls. So I work with some really awesome people and that's something I was going to say. I mean, I have resources for just about everything. So whatever you guys need, I mean, I want to help you, and set you up for success. If it's not something I can do myself, I will certainly get you connected to somebody that can. So, where do you find the list of states and how much it costs for the LLC? You go to your individual state. So you're just going to put into Google your state, Secretary of State, and then it's going to bring up their website and it will have the fees listed right on there. There isn't like one, list with all of the states that I know of. What does it say 308 in Tennessee? I don't know what that means. 308 in Tennessee.
I think she was saying that's how much the LLC is there.
Oh,
I saw that pop up when we were talking about that.
Yeah, it's different in every state. And what I would suggest, if you are considering like have it looked at and say, okay, let's look at the income. Let's look at where the business is at. Does it make sense, you know, to pay any additional fees to put an LLC in place? And then what are your requirements going to be every year? So case by case basis. Jill, thankful to have my LLC in Montana. I know that's an awesome state to live in. And this says, so don't get the LLC in California if you aren't making more than 800. No, they charge you an $800 tax on your tax return just for having an LLC in California. So it really, and that's a big tax, you know? So it's like, unless you're making good money, it doesn't often make sense to get that started right from the get-go in California. You want to wait until you get to a point where you know that you can cover $800 tax every year, because that's pretty hefty. Okay, so she said Secretary of State ? Yes. So anyone that has questions like that specifically about their situation, like I see Jennifer Elkins is giving me kind of like, this is my specific situation, probably answer that outside of this Zoom, because we're already at 42 minutes. So I want to honor your guys' time. And there's like 53 messages in here. So, so just shoot me like an email. I can give Lacey my email address. And if you have like a question like that, that's more not general, but specific to how much that you've made, and then just shoot me an email and I'll do the best I can to answer your question there. And then yes, patience, you have a full-time job. Can I use that to offset and create a loss? Yes, you can. We talked about that earlier. Do I provide tax services for persons in Illinois? I am an enrolled agent with the IRS, so I'm licensed to practice in all 50 states. Unlike a CPA that is licensed in one state, or sometimes they, you know, have like 2 or 3 states. So yes, I do all 50 states. And then what about a business license? So when we're talking about an LLC, like in Idaho, that is a business license, and it's actually not required to have a business license here. So again, it depends on your state. There may be separate requirement for a business license, but like here, all I need is doing business as or an LLC, and that suffices. So that is something you just have to check with the state on. And then Tammy said yes to direct sales companies. So yes, you can combine those. If you live in Texas, that's $300. Good to know. Well, one good thing about Texas is there's no state income tax. So is that a one-time fee in Texas, or is that something you have to pay every year? That was Denise Frank that asked that.
It's a one-time fee, and I only know because I'm also a life coach, so I have to get it. So this was actually a very good Zoom.
Oh, good. Yeah, and if it's a one-time fee, it makes sense. Make the investment. It's when you have to look at, am I going to be on the line to pay that every year? You know, that's where I would look at it on a case-by-case basis. And then Virginia Sade said in California, it cost $75. So let's just clarify, yes, when you issue the LLC, it's a $75 fee. But when you file your tax return, there's an $800 tax per year on that LLC. So 2 separate costs in California. Let's see. When applying for LLC, do we choose perpetual? Yes, you do choose perpetual. $150 in Illinois. Oh, they're telling me how much it costs in each state. Do you need a lawyer to set up an LLC, or can you do it yourselves? You can absolutely do it yourselves. You do not need a lawyer to set up an LLC. So I think that gets to the bottom of the questions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to email Lacey a deductions sheet that shows you all of the things that you can deduct, and also a W-9 that you guys can start sending out to anyone that you're giving product credits to, that you're, you know, giving cashbacks to. And then I will also have her give my email to anybody that has any additional questions. And then, like I said, you know, we could do a monthly just Q&A if you guys want to get together and you have stuff that you know want to ask questions on. I will totally do that for Lacey, so she just needs to let me know.
Girlfriend, you are so appreciated. And I know I speak for all of us. And I think that that's a really good idea, especially like we're in December. So let's kick off January and be like, everybody get your junk together. You know, I don't even know. I really appreciate you. I know everybody else is. Just taking your time out means a lot to all of us. Thank you so much.
Well, this is my passion, and you know, finances and accounting and taxes, and I absolutely love it. And I want you guys, you know, I don't want that to be a stress point for you. It's like you're busy running your business and growing your business. It's like this should be something that is not, you know, causing you stress. It's just handled, and you know it's handled, and you know you put it in place, and that way, you know, you have control over it. So anything I can do to help, you just let me know.
Thank you.
You're very
All
welcome.
right, you guys, send me a message if you want that info that she said that she would shoot to
Right.
me. And yeah, you guys have a good Thursday. Have a good night. And we'll see you later.
Bye.